Welcome to Micro Metal Mondays. Today on Micro Metal Mondays, we will be discussing Lamb of God's 2004 release, Ashes of the Wake. This is widely considered one of Lamb of God's best albums, if not the best, only comparable to their following album, Sacrament. This album is Lamb of God's third studio album, and it is their first major label release. Due to this album coming out in 2004, many of the songs on the album are heavily inspired by the Iraq War. Songs like Now You've Got Something to Die For, One Gun, and The Faded Line are all references and explore the themes, explore the Iraq War, and the violence that it brought to Iraq. This is an especially great song, and I guess you would call it an instrumental song. The title track of this album, Ashes of the Wake, includes a radio interview of a former Staff Sergeant Marine, a man named Jimmy Macy, and how he would detail the horrors that the US Marine Corps were committing. How they were told to fire upon civilians, whether they were armed or not. Just if anyone came within vicinity of their location, fire upon them and kill them. And he said nearly every time that they went out there to search the corpses for weapons, they were all unarmed. And he then left the Marine Corps because he didn't want to kill civilians. The first track on this album, Laid to Rest, has some of the quickest and fastest guitar riffs you will ever hear. This album is head to toe in some of the punchiest, quickest drop D riffs you will ever hear on any metal album. If you're a guitar player, I implore you, please listen to this album and learn some of the riffs on this album. There aren't many solos. There's only one solo on this album. At the time, Mark Morton, the lead guitar player, didn't want to do any solos, which I suppose is one of the drawbacks to this album, that there is not much solo work. But the fabulous drum work of Chris Adler and the bounce between Mark Morton and Willie Adler and their complementary guitar playing. John Campbell's bass sounds enormous, and Randy Blythe's vocals are some of the best vocals you'll hear put to tape. The second song on the album, Hourglass, does this amazing thing about halfway through the song where everything drops out and there's just one guitar. You hear one guitar and it's playing an extremely fast riff. I believe riff by Willie Adler or Mark Morton, I'm not sure. And then the other guitar player, whichever one it is, comes in and harmonizes with this incredibly fast riff, which is something you rarely hear on metal albums because it's so hard to do. Your production and your playing has to be unbelievably tight to get that to sound good. My favorite track on the album would probably be Blood of the Scribe. It's incredibly fast song, but the chorus has one of the greatest riffs ever written. I beg you, please go and listen to that song listen to Laid to Rest. Listen to the entire album. I implore you. It's fantastic from head to toe. You won't be disappointed.